The photograph on the mantelpiece was a ghost of a life that felt like someone else's. In it, Sarah, her husband Mark, and 5-year-old Leo were a perfect trinity, radiant under a summer sun. They were happy. It was a real, tangible thing. But happiness, Sarah had learned, was a currency easily spent. Mark's laughter, once the booming soundtrack of their home, had soured into the bitter hiss of a beer can opening. His job disappeared, and his hope followed, leaving a void he filled with alcohol. The arguments became the new soundtrack, a nightly crescendo of slammed doors and fractured words. Finally, the music stopped. Sarah packed 2 bags, took Leo's hand, and walked away, the silence of their departure more deafening than any fight. She found a small 2-story house on the edge of town, suspiciously cheap. The landlord was vague, the air inside was still and heavy, but desperation was a powerful motivator. She didn't ask why the rent was so low. She just saw a roof, 4 walls, and a chance to breathe. The first few days were a blur of cardboard boxes and forced cheerfulness. An unnatural chill clung to the air. A cold that had nothing to do with the autumn weather, but Sarah blamed it on stress. She noticed the toll the move had taken on Leo. His light had dimmed, his small shoulders slumped with a weight no 7-year-old should carry. "Hey," she said, forcing a bright smile. "How about a game of hide and seek, like we used to?" Leo's eyes lit up just a little. "Okay, Mommy. You hide. I'll count to 20. She covered her eyes, the familiar numbers a comforting mantra. 18, 19, 20. Ready or not, here I come. She walked into the living room. A pair of small, sneaker-clad feet peeked out from beneath the long, floral curtains. A soft smile touched her lips. He always hid there. She tiptoed closer, ready to pounce. The sound of shattering ceramic echoed from the hallway. Sarah spun around. A vase lay in pieces on the floor. She whipped her head back toward the curtains. The feet were gone. A cold dread, sharp and sudden, pierced through her. Then she saw him. At the far end of the hall, a small figure stood facing the corner, his hands pressed against the wall, as if in punishment. It was Leo, in his red striped shirt. But how? "Leo?" she called out, her voice trembling slightly. The figure didn't move. She took a slow, hesitant step forward. "Mommy?" Sarah froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. The voice was directly behind her. She turned slowly. There stood Leo, his eyes wide with fear and his bottom lip quivering. In his hands were the 2 halves of a small, ceramic fish figurine. "I broke my fishy," he whispered, tears welling. And why did you leave me in my room? I thought we were playing." Sarah's mind reeled. She looked back at the corner. The other boy was gone. It was just an empty, shadowed wall. What do you mean, sweetie? You were just... I was hiding," Leo sniffled. "And you were in my room." She chalked it up to the stress, a waking nightmare born of exhaustion and grief. "It's okay, baby. It's okay," she soothed, pulling him into a hug. "How about I tell you a bedtime story tonight? I'll sleep in your room with you." The next day, after dropping Leo at school, she returned to the house. Her phone buzzed. Mark's name flashed on the screen, then vanished, a missed call. She ignored the pang in her chest and continued unpacking. Days bled into a week. She found a job at a local supermarket. During a lunch break, a chatty workmate, Brenda, leaned in conspiratorially. "So, you're the one who moved into the old Miller place," she said, her voice low. "Brave woman." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked. Brenda's eyes widened. You don't know? Oh, honey, a man lost his mind in that house, killed his whole family, burned them. They say the house never let them leave. The casual horror of the story sent a wave of nausea through Sarah. That night, after she'd tucked a sleeping Leo into bed, she sat at the kitchen counter, the silence of the house pressing in on her. The memories flooded back. Mark teaching Leo to ride a bike, their laughter echoing in a park. The warmth of his hand in hers. Then, the darker memories, the shouting, the tears. She picked up her phone and played the voicemail from the other day. Mark's voice, thick with emotion, filled the quiet room.
Sarah, please, I'm so sorry. I'll change, I swear. I can't lose you. I can't lose my family. Just come home.
Tears streamed down her face. She wiped them away and looked up from her phone, her gaze falling on the bottom of the staircase, visible from the kitchen. And she saw them. At the top of the dim staircase, a pair of small, sneaker-clad feet.
Leo, can't you sleep, sweetie?
She called out, her voice gentle, though a knot of unease tightened in her stomach. The feet took a step back, disappearing from view. She rushed from the kitchen, her heart pounding, and ran straight to Leo's room. He was fast asleep, his chest rising and falling in a peaceful rhythm. Relief washed over her, so potent it made her dizzy. She went to her bathroom and stood under the hot spray of the shower, trying to wash away the day's chill. Stepping out of the steam-filled room, she saw him, walking out of his bedroom and heading for the stairs.
Leo? Honey, where are you going?
She called. He didn't turn, just continued his descent. She ran after him, grabbing his small shoulder at the bottom of the staircase. He jumped, his face a mask of pure terror. "Mommy!" he cried out. "I heard you calling from downstairs. You told me to come down." "Come on," she said, her voice a strained whisper. "You're sleeping with me tonight." Tucked into her bed, the house silent around them, she remembered what he'd said after their game of hide-and-seek.
Leo,
She began, her voice soft.
when we were playing, you said you saw me in your room. What did you see?
Leo pulled the covers up to his chin. "I was under the blanket," he said, his voice small. "I peeked out, and you were standing in the doorway, just looking at me." He shuddered. "I hid, then I peeked again, and you were closer, so I hid again. When I looked the next time, your face was right there." He squeezed his eyes shut. "I hid one last time, and when I looked, you were walking away. I got up to run to you, but I bumped the table and my fishy fell." He paused, then added in a strangely calm voice, "It's okay now, though. Dad fixed it." The world stopped. "What did you say?" "Dad fixed it. He glued it back together for me." Her husband wasn't here. He didn't even know where they lived. A new primal fear seized her. He was in the house, hiding, waiting. "Leo," she said, her voice tight with panic. "Get up. We have to go. Now." She threw back the covers and pulled him out of bed, dragging him toward the door. She twisted the knob. It wouldn't budge. It was locked, stuck. An acrid smell filled the air, and she saw an orange flicker from under the door. Fire. It was impossible. She ran to the window, tugging at the sash. It was sealed shut. She looked down into the dark yard below, and her blood ran cold. Standing on the lawn, bathed in the eerie glow of the burgeoning fire, were two figures, a woman and a small boy. Her and Leo. They stared up at her, their faces split by identical, triumphant smiles. Suddenly, a deafening crash splintered the air as the bedroom door flew off its hinges. Mark stood there, his face smudged with soot, his eyes wild with determination. He scooped Leo into his arms and grabbed her hand, pulling them through the smoke-filled hallway and out into the night air. They collapsed on the lawn, coughing and gasping. Mark stood up, his gaze fixed on the house. In the second-floor window, where they had just been trapped, the two doppelgangers stared back, their smiling faces illuminated by the flames. Mark turned to them, his expression one of profound sorrow. "I'm sorry," he choked out, his eyes meeting Sarah's. "I'm so sorry I wasn't the husband and father you deserved." And then, before she could scream, before she could stop him, he turned and ran back into the inferno. The house groaned its last and collapsed inward, a final dusty exhalation. Sirens wailed in the distance. Sarah felt a strange calm descend as she held her son, her consciousness fading to black. She awoke to the sterile white of a hospital room. Her mother was sitting by her bed. "Leo?" was the first word from her lips. "He's fine, sweetheart. He's safe," her mother soothed. A tear of relief traced a path down Sarah's cheek. "And Mark?" Her mother's face crumpled. She took Sarah's hand, her grip tight and trembling. "Oh, honey," she whispered, her voice breaking. "The police, they found Mark last week, in his apartment. He took his own life." The sterile room began to spin. A week ago, before the fire, before the rescue, the man who had pulled them from the flames, who had apologized with his final breath, who had run back into the house to face the demons within, he was already gone. He had become a father and a husband, one last final time. His love a ghost that had been strong enough to tear down a door and save them from a hell he could not escape himself.